the meetup of President Trump with Chief of Army Staff, Field Marshal Asim Munir. How do you look at this meeting? Is it a pivotal shift in foreign policy of U.S. Or what does this indicate for U.S.-Pakistan relationships future?
First of all, it's just a remarkable development that we had this lunch meeting between President Trump and Field Marshal Munir. For the first few days, or for the few days before the meeting happened, there was a lot of uncertainty as to what the visit of Munir would actually entail. The Pakistani government, including the embassy here in Washington, had not really provided many details about his agenda and his schedule. So we go from that uncertainty to suddenly learning that he's going to be meeting with the president. And it was a remarkable meeting because, among other things, it's the first time that something like this had happened, essentially, for a U.S. president to invite a Pakistani army chief who is not also the head of state to a lunch or a meeting at the White House. So, there's really no precedent for that. That's significant. And also the fact that the meeting took place, and it was not just a brief lunch. It was, according to the readout from ISPR, 2 hours. That is a long time for the president of the United States to spend with a visiting foreign official, and especially at a moment when President Trump is facing a major foreign policy crisis, that being the war, the Israel-Iran war. So it's really remarkable on the whole. Now, you asked if this represents a shift in approach or policy for the U.S. vis-a-vis Pakistan. I don't think that the fact that you had this meeting, that in of itself does not represent a policy shift, but I do think it reflects a very different approach that President Trump takes to U.S. foreign policy compared to his predecessors. I think it's very personality driven, not necessarily tied to, a very clear formal policy driven approach. Clearly, President Trump concluded that, ties with Pakistan can be advanced, and U.S. goals vis-a-vis Pakistan, and perhaps U.S. goals in foreign policy more broadly, could be advanced by meeting with the individual who's widely viewed as the most powerful figure in Pakistan.
Before we talk about subjects which were discussed in this meeting, but do you think that there has been a different posturing of U.S. towards Pakistan post-Pakistan-India conflict?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, not completely, in the sense that you'll remember very soon after President Trump took office, he gave a speech to Congress in which he praised Pakistan for helping the U.S. with the counterterrorism operation. So there's been a lot of, there had already been positive messaging from the Trump administration toward Pakistan before the Pahalgam attack and before the India-Pakistan conflict. But indeed, if we look at U.S. government messaging, from the day that the ceasefire was announced up to the present day, it's just been unusually positive, particularly given that when Trump was president the last time, especially early in his term, he was very critical of Pakistan. There's the infamous New Year's tweet when he referred to Pakistan's lies and deceit. So clearly the tone is very different, and the positivity of it is certainly very striking and indeed very concerning for New Delhi.
Yeah, but I was coming to this point. You must have seen the responses and reactions from Delhi, especially BJP. Are they really isolated in terms of diplomatic, engagements? Because if you look at Bangladesh, China and Pakistan are holding trilateral meetings. Earlier to this meeting, there was a trilateral meeting of Afghanistan, Pakistan and China. So do you think this isolation is coming down to the regional isolation as well?
No, I would not say that. I mean, definitely India, of course, has a very serious challenge with Pakistan. The relationship is of course a mess. And indeed, it has a newer challenge with Bangladesh. I mean, that's very clear that the India-Bangladesh relationship has changed a lot since Sheikh Hasina left. But, I mean, this in the next 2 days, India's defense minister is going to travel to China. That relationship is of course fraught, but at least before the India-Pakistan conflict, there had been some steps on the part of India and China to try to reduce tensions. There was a border deal last year. India also, to the surprise of many, has been able to expand ties with the Taliban in Afghanistan. And for all the talk about how you have a number of new leaders in South Asia that lean more toward China than India, in the Maldives and Sri Lanka and Nepal, and indeed in Bangladesh, I do think that India's relationship with these countries, aside from Bangladesh, is still quite strong. So
Yeah.
I do think India has faced diplomatic setbacks globally in the world. But in terms of the region, I think it's the same challenge with Pakistan, the new challenge with Bangladesh. But beyond that, I actually think it's holding its own.